this is construction. Like, things don't always go as planned. Not everything is perfect in its little chamber. Brad Leavitt, president of AFT Construction. Welcome to our YouTube channel today. And if you're into architecture, design, construction, or even owning a small business, this is the channel for you. So make sure and hit that subscribe, because we're going to be giving out a lot of information to help your business. So one of the questions often asked is risk, and we've spoken about risk as far as, lump sum projects, cost plus, and this has to do with a project that gets canceled. So this varies, if you're a designer, architect, builder, there's different stages where we bill and invoice the customer, time that we put in, whether it's on the front end, in the middle of the project, or the back end. How do you protect yourself? Because something we deal with as a builder, we build these great custom homes, amazing clients, and we've been very fortunate in our business to have great clients, and the projects typically go forward. But one thing that happens, especially right now in this climate, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's uncertainty with the market, there's uncertainty with the election, you have cost of labor and material super high with COVID, there's limitations of product, there's shortage of concrete, Portland cement, and framing lumber, and aluminum, and all these different things that affect manufacturing. I mean, even without calling out some brands, from air conditioner, condensing units, to lumber, as we mentioned, trusses. I mean, all these things are backed up, which affects the cost of the house. And so where some clients have an interpretation of what the home may cost, and we may as a builder, but fast forward a year to when we actually finally start construction, that pricing will or may have changed. And at that point, it can cause projects to go south or be canceled or stall. Or maybe personal decisions with the clients, their desire to have the risk in the project, maybe their circumstances or financial capabilities have changed with COVID. And so that's something very important. And as a business owner, it's really important to understand the time that you're going to put in. So I'll relate to it first as an architect or designer. So most architects and designers will have an upfront deposit. They have a contract amount, whether it's hourly or square foot, and they gauge on what that'll be. And what should happen is they should bill the client a deposit, for those amounts. That way it covers them for their amount of time that they put in at the beginning of that project. And then as the project, hits these different tiers, it's very important to have a defined contract to let your clients know the stages of when certain payments and draws are due. And what this allows, that as you're working, you're billing the client and you're keeping this process going. That way the client's protected to know that as they're paying each draw, work has been completed, we're at that phase, and it allows, the end professional, whether it be architect or designer, to at least be covered for their time in. One mistake that I know a lot of our designers and architects have made is out of good faith, they move forward, they get engineering paid for, they might have soils reports done, they may come out and do a native plant survey like we do out here without being reimbursed or billing up front. And then what happens is the project stalls, or the client is busy and these amounts aren't paid, and the architect or designer ends up footing that bill. So it's really important to understand the protection there. And as a builder, it's very different. A lot of us as builders, we may be excited about a project, we're giving a lot of our time up front and consultation and in pricing and all these exercises, and it's really important that how do we communicate that with the client, so then that way we're protected. One thing we do at AFT with our clients is we have a deposit or a retainer that we bill for the client. It's a set amount that covers our time for the amount we spend in that 6 months to a year pre-construction, and then we credit that off the cost of the house once we start construction. And I'm very open about that, and the reason being is because that at least gives us an amount there that covers the time that I invest in my project managers and coordinators and our estimating team and everything that we're doing behind the scenes with our vendors and subcontractors. That's really important, because if the project is canceled, at least we have recouped a portion of our investment into the project if it doesn't go forward. And if it goes forward, we credit that towards the cost of the bill and deduct that off of our fee, which works out good with our clients. And sometimes there are some projects that are even more substantial, that take more time, and it's really important to understand what that deposit must be for the client and communicate that. And additionally, sometimes there's work we do actually during pre-construction. So we've had instances where we're out either demoing the lot or doing some work on the project prior to commencement, and it's really important to be on top of that and bill the client for the time and material that we spend to protect yourself. So make sure you think about that. It's a painful lesson I learned early in my career. I know a lot of people can relate to that. So always think about how you're going to bill that and how you can take care of the client, still be upfront with them, and help them understand the time that you're putting in. But you think about job flow. I mean, job flow and production capabilities, if you have a large project stop or be canceled and you're planning on that, that can affect the next 2 years of your company, especially on some of these bigger builds. So one thing that's really important is, we tell our staff, mentally, this is construction, like things don't always go as planned. Not everything is perfect in its little chamber as we like. And so it's really important with your job flow is there has to be some care. There has to be a lot of vetting as far as forecasting for 2020, for 2021 and 2022. How many projects can our team successfully have? And I look at it, okay, how big is our firm? How many people do we have employed? How many projects can each of them run, without us dropping, having issues in the field and making mistakes, and still being present and managing our projects as we should, as we're, being forthright with our customer. So it's really important to understand that job flow. And then of course, on the business development side, we have to make sure that we have enough projects in the queue and lined up for our team to manage. Well, as we mentioned, occasionally you'll be planning on a large project that's going to cover some of your manpower or some of your staff that you're moving them to, and it gets canceled. Well, that's why it's really important. Early in my career, I was working for a builder, and we were super busy at the time. And he had made the comment, one of our production managers, who's the VP of construction, had said, I need another job like a hole in my head, right? And so they weren't really pursuing business development. They were busy. They had a 2-year log of work, and they quit doing business development. And they were focusing on everything they had in their bucket. Well, this was during 2008-9. Well, the economy comes crashing down, and everything on there had been canceled. So that 1.5-year pipeline, every single one was canceled, and they hadn't been hitting the streets or working on BD, for the prior 6 months. And the issue was it came to a screeching halt, and now you have all the staff and no work. And so I always look at it, I'm very optimistic about our future. I'm optimistic about the industry and what we're doing. I'm optimistic about Arizona and Scottsdale and the projects we have, but at the same time, I'm very realistic that it could stop tomorrow. And if so, what projects do we have on our plate? If this is canceled, how do we pick it up? And we still have to manage it. If they all do go through, we're chasing a lot of projects. If they all go through, how do we address that? Have we already been working on hiring? Do we have training in place? Do we have systems in place? So if I bring some on, can we get them up to speed, in 3 months as opposed to 6 or 9 months? And so these are conversations on the backside and internally that we're doing to make sure our systems and training's in place, that as we bring people on, that we can get that going. And if all the projects move forward. And if they don't, that's okay. We can pivot because we have enough in the bucket, enough in the pipeline, that we can alternate and move our staff around. And we also are very careful about the projects that we consider and chase in different parts of the valley, knowing this. And so always never stop doing business development, never stop that social media, continue to market your company and brand. That way you're prepared, and that is in the best interest of your clients. Your clients want to make sure that you're busy, that you're not overworked, but that you're busy, that you have enough flow, that you're paying your subs, and that they're being paid, because the last thing you want to do is have them walk out or cancel off the job, because that costs the GC money, costs the client money. So it's really important that you have those systems in place, that you're prepared for whether or not we may have a recession.